All right, so we're good on the cut. Now we're gonna do the color. We're gonna do a balayage color. So, because she has some pretty short hair in the back, this is mainly gonna be around her face, and then you wanna do it a little bit of an ombre in the ends, right? So we will bring a few of the pieces of that into the back that kind of hang over the top, but it's gonna be really like a sun-kissed look. So there's not gonna be anything back here. So if you were to take some hair pieces and like paint them down here and this stuff, it would look like polka dots. So that's why you have to make sure that you don't do anything on hair that's on the sides and the back of the head that's short enough to actually see the shape of where you're putting the color, or you get like a leopard print spot. So make sure whatever you do, you're making sure that you're putting it over, that it'll just like from the top and kind of lay over that just to kind of shadow it in and highlight it a little bit. All right, so now we're gonna take the color. You ready for this? This will be fun. Okay, so I'm mixing up the Firmices. So we're gonna be using 20 volume developer. That's what this stuff is so awesome for. Okay, so I'm using, that's 20. So I'm gonna do 4 strips of this on the bottom of the bowl. So each strip is 10 milliliters, so we're gonna do 40. Of 20 volume. And this should give us up to 5 levels of lift. And then we are gonna be toning, and we're gonna be using this 9B Shades EQ to tone it when we're done. So I'm just gonna mix this up till it's creamy. Okay, so when you're doing this, this is really just like painting hair. So you're just gonna have to look where the hair's falling. It's nice to have their hair clean and styled and parted where they usually do it, so that you know where the highlights are gonna fall when you're doing this. And you need to wear gloves because you're not using foils or anything, it's just the paintbrush and your hands. And I need some clips. So I'm gonna go ahead and start right here on the front side, and I'm gonna take a diagonal back section and pin that up. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you have a towel on hand, because you're gonna need to be wiping your hands and cleaning your hands in between applications of the balayage color. Pretty much what I do with this is I'm just gonna take a section of hair about this wide, it's about 3, maybe 3.5 inches. And I'm gonna take the brush, and you make sure the brush has quite a bit of color on it, because it needs to be thick enough to, when you paint it down, it gets a nice stripe on it, but not too thick where it's like blobbing down onto the person. I usually do one by the face, and then a shorter one, and then another one that's a little bit higher. So this section will probably have 3 lines, and then I'll paint it down into the ends to make it ombre type highlight. So, okay, so I'm gonna take the comb out that section, and they can be pretty thick. You don't want this to be thin because it needs to have hair underneath it to support that color that you're doing. And then you're just gonna make sure you have quite a bit of color on your brush, and you're gonna paint that first stripe down, get a little bit more color, and then another one. And then on the last one, I usually bring it over. There we go. And then on the ends, I just kind of paint it all down and feather it down from where those light pieces started. And make sure you saturate it on both sides with this. And this is really fun. It's just like, almost looks like little girls when they go play in the sun, they get those little highlights that everyone wants. It's nice. Wipe your hands. You don't want to get blobs of the lightener on the hair you don't want colored. That's going to be bad news because it will lighten up pretty quick. I don't use foils for this because I think that the hair's thick enough in the sections, it kind of just lays on top and it's soft. And this doesn't swell, like I said. I'll leave this top piece out and do that separately. So here's my next section. I'm going to do the same type of thing. Just grab a piece on the end. And you can do more than 3. You can do 4 or 5. She wants to concentrate it pretty much by her face a little bit more than the back. Make sure it goes all the way down. We're gonna grab her front section, do the same thing. I'm gonna really pay attention to where her part's laying. She already has a little bit that she did herself here, so I don't really need to lighten that again. I'll do one right by it to give it a little bit more. And it's important to do these at different levels because you don't want it to look like they just have regrowth. So this is a pretty quick process. You do have to be careful where you put it, that you're not getting it on their skin or letting it go too deep into the hair to where it's getting squished or anything, but it does process pretty quick. So it's not, I don't think it's as time consuming as foiling. And I don't think it's as much upkeep either, because when this starts to grow out, it's really soft lines. Let me take this piece out. Here we go. Okay, we're up to the top part of her head. This one's really important because she's going to see it all the time, so you got to make sure you have everything where you want it. You need to keep the tension on this pretty tight so that you don't lose any of the pieces. And right around her face, and then we'll do a little bit lower one right in the middle and then a higher one in the back. The reason why I left the back out is because I'm needing to pin the sides up, and I don't want it to be squishing into that color while I'm working back there. Okay, so now I'm going to do some in the back. I'm just going to take some sections and still pull them to this side up here on the top and get this out of the way. Helps if the color's on the very tip of the brush. All right, we're gonna let this process for a little while and check it. Probably 15 minutes. It's already starting to go, you can see in the front hair. So this has been processing for 15 minutes, and I'm just gonna take I took this little piece of hair and I sprayed it off just to check the color. And always remember, hair looks a little bit darker when it's wet, but I'm taking it up here and I'm comparing it to her roots. So it's pretty light, and I think that's a good tone. So we're gonna go ahead and rinse it out. All right, so I rinsed her out, washed her, and then I mixed up the 9B and with the color processing solution, the gloss, the Shade Seafood gloss. And I just poured it over her wet hair. I like squoze it out and then poured it over the top of it and just kind of worked it in. And this is going to take out anything that's really brassy and orange and just bring it down to a really pretty mellow tone. So I just watched it for a few minutes, and on really light hair, you would have to watch it a lot closer and rinse it sooner, but since we still have quite a bit of color in her hair, I'm going to let it sit on a little bit longer and really soak in. But just watch it. As soon as it looks the right color, you can rinse it out, wash it, and kind of condition it again. Okay, we just finished with the balayage hair color, and we're going to dry it out, and all of these highlights are going to just pop right out. So here we go. I always just blow dry with my fingers first to make sure that I get most of the moisture out before I start to round brush. All right, I think it turned out pretty. All right, so this is our finished product. Really subtle sun-kissed highlights and a really dramatic A-line. I hope you guys liked it, and make sure you subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and tell your friends. See you guys, bye. Okay. I went, blah. So weird. Okay, let's get some pictures of your hair.